So our next step is going to be to cut the groove on our vertical piece to allow us to adjust our height of our cell phone stand. Um, and so the way we're going to do that is here at the table saw, and it's going to be a bit of a unique setup that we don't normally do. We're going to be using a setup called a dado blade. And what a dado blade is when you stack multiple saw blades, one next to another, um, to achieve whatever width you want. Now, in this case, we're only doing a quarter-inch dado, so we only have our two outer blades stacked against each other to give us our quarter of an inch. Each blade is an eighth inch thick. If we needed wider grooves or dados to be cut, they provide you with a chart that lists all the different, is that sideways? Yeah. That lists how many of the blades and the chippers you would need if you want to make a specific measurement. So if I wanted to do a 3/4 inch dado, I would need the outer blades, and then I would need 3 C chippers and 2 D spacers. So what those are, these are our chippers, and they look like little wings, basically. So these would go in between the two outer blades, and they, when you stack them, you would stack them having them staggered like this, and then you could stagger them even further like this, and then you would have your outer blades in the middle so that this chips away the inside and then the sides cut clean on the outer borders. So when it's all put together, it's a pretty gnarly setup, and of course with that comes a lot of added danger, because if you cut your finger, instead of one cut, you got a really wide blade that would be making that cut. Thankfully, with SawStop, when you're using a dado, they also provide a dado brake. Okay, so instead of our regular brake that we usually keep on there, we have the wider one that they provide us. And you can see the difference, right? So if we had a really wide dado stack, it would protect us just the same as with a regular saw blade. So it's nice to have that added peace of mind. So I'm going to go ahead and put that back in place. And then I'll explain how we're going to make this cut. And then we're going to cut. So notice the throat plate is also wider. So this is our regular throat plate. I'm going to put that to the side. And we're going to use our wider throat plate. Make sure that's flat. I know just from setting this up before that my fence has to be set at 1 3/4 inch wide. Okay. The last challenge that we had to deal with is the fact that this is not a through cut. So if I start from here, I would be cutting into where I don't want to cut. And then if I start from here, when I get to the point where I want to stop, it wouldn't exactly be safe to lift this up or back out of the cut. And the other option would be turning the machine off, which when we're cutting 150 of these, it's going to get very time consuming. So instead, we're going to do what's called a plunge cut, which is a bit of an advanced maneuver to do. But what it consists of, and the way I set it up, is with a ruler, I figured out where the bottom arc of the blade comes up. So right about here is where I feel it touching the ruler, okay? And so I brought the square up and I marked a pencil line, which you see right there, okay? And then I did a little bit of math and figured out how far back that needs to be so that when the end of the piece is against this line, and when I plunge this cut down, I have it figured out that the blade is going to stop cutting where I want it to stop. So a little bit of a unique setup, a little tricky to, I did a couple test cuts to get it going. But now that I have it going, I should be able to do the same process for all of the pieces that we have to cut. So what I'll be doing is very carefully, I'll have my hand here, and notice I'm not going to have my hand here because God forbid if something happens and it plunges down, that's where my hand is going to be near the blade. So I'm going to keep it to the side here. I'm going to line up the end of the board right with this line here, and I'm going to slowly lower it down. Once it's flat, I'm going to get my push sticks, push it all the way through. Okay? So I am going to get the dust collector on. Get my safety glasses on. And we're going to make sure my push sticks are nice and ready. And we're going to make the cut. And there we have it. Okay? So we're going to repeat this process for our whole stack. And I'm going to be extra cautious and careful for every single cut. And we're going to get this done.